Well, it's a good evening at 7 o'clock here in Brisbane studios of Radio FM 88, and you'll see a very interesting person in the background there. So without further ado, well, there you go. And it's my privilege to welcome back in the Northern Hemisphere and the lady in pink. Yeah, good morning to you, Andrea.
Hi, Jeffrey. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Dreaming a New Dream. Today is the 7th of November, 2024. And if you're new, welcome. And if you're not new, well, welcome anyway. And if you'd like to subscribe to Andrina Forrest, there you will see every weekly show that I've done in the last couple of years, where I've been privileged to talk to many amazing guests. So without further ado, today I've got the beautiful Kelly Hindson on the line. So welcome, Kelly, and it's lovely to see you.
Hi, Andrina. Hi, Jeffrey. Thanks for having me. Been long awaited, that's for sure.
Yeah, because Kelly was going to come on when I came back from Egypt, but as things changed and one thing and another, we had to cancel and rebook. So thank you for your patience, and I know it's worth waiting for. And you've got an amazing story to share, and how you've sort of died and you've come up with different knowledge and gifts, and you're going to share your story. And I know when we spoke ages ago, you said that like you died, but you didn't see no white light and have angels and all of that. So your story is very different. So would you like to start from the very beginning of your life, how it came, this has all come about to where we are now, and what you want to share?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much, and giving me the opportunity. And it's just amazing to see you so well again, Andrina. So more than anything, I'm thankful for that. Yeah.
So am I, and thanks everybody for their prayers as well.
Well, it definitely works. Yeah. So I guess I was just a normal, everyday type person.
What's normal?
One normal. Yeah. I was one of the sheeple. I was very kind of watch the 10 o'clock news every day, and my kids were got two girls. They were 6 and 4 when all this started to unravel. So I was just in the middle of a Zumba class one day, and I mean, I was very fit. I've been a swimming coach for many years, and I was running around in a Zumba class one day, my normal weekly class, and my legs started to give way, and I did not know why. And as I kept going on, my friend was like, come on. I said, my legs won't move very fast. I don't know what's wrong with me. So anyway, I ended up collapsing. And that spurred a massive journey of 4, 5, 6 years on not knowing what was wrong with me. So from then, so sorry, so I've got a cough, so I do apologise. So from that initial collapsing, I went to the hospital, and they diagnosed me with something called Guillain-Barré syndrome. And they told me at this point that, yeah, your legs are weak. I mean, when I say I collapsed, but I could walk again, but I was very slow. My feet wouldn't work. My feet were numb. I couldn't really feel anything, but I could still move around, but very, very slow. So I went into hospital, and they literally said, I remember, okay, so we're going to put you on the respiratory ward because your lumbar puncture says you've got this Guillain-Barré syndrome. So what will start to happen is everything will start to fail, and your lungs will fail, and all you'll be able to do is blink, really. And I was like,
God.
What? I couldn't believe what they were saying. So I went on this respiratory ward. They were giving me this medication that really didn't suit me. I mean, to the point where the headache was that bad. If there was an open window, I would have jumped out of it. It was just horrendous.
Really?
And I was in there for 2 weeks, and they said, when you can walk and when you can go up the stairs, you know, you can go home. I was like, all right. So me not knowing anything about being sick, I gradually, slowly got better. Even had a slow walking, had a stick, went up the stairs myself, come back down myself, and I was like, right, I've done it now, I can go. And they were like, you've done it yourself? I'm like, yeah, I'm all right. They were like, okay. So they're like, okay, so by September you'll be okay, because this was the May. And I was starting a new job. I was really concerned that I was starting this new job, and I got the job and everything. So they said, no, by September you'll be all right. It's not because the medication's clearly working, we'll go. But I felt like absolute death. It was just awful. So went away, and the relapses just kept happening and kept happening. And they were getting worse every time. So I got admitted to the hospital a few more times after that. And they just said, well, this is clearly not working. We're going to try something else. So they give me something called plasma exchange therapy, which is a bit like dialysis, where they exchange your immune system for a new immune system, basically. So I had like a big tube that come out of my neck that would kind of like go through my body, called a central line, and filter out my blood and put it back. Had that done. That would be for 5 consecutive days. Then they'd be like, okay, you'll start to get better now. Nothing worked. I still kept going back for this awful treatment that was another drip form. It's called immunoglobulins, which is another immune system based thing. And again, that just wasn't working. I wasn't getting any better. But the headaches were just extreme, like really bad. So this was going on then for about another year, and still not being able to walk properly. I was on crutches constantly. I had no balance. But I just got on with life the best that I could, because it was going on for so long. I did go to the job. I started my work. I did go to the job. My kids were like 6 and 4, so I missed my daughter's first day at school. So life had to carry on, because you just have to. So I knew there was missing something. And I just knew deep down in my soul, I even said to my mum very, very early on, they're missing something. I don't think they know what's wrong with me. They're definitely missing something. And it was going on for so long. Another year passed, and other things started to go wrong. My organs, I had a scan because my bladder was just, I used to go to the toilet about 40 times a night, no joke.
Oh my God.
And you know that feeling when you got a water infection, cystitis, that type of thing? It was like that, but there was nothing coming out. Had this scan, and the scan come back that your bladder's absolutely fine, but your spleen and your liver is absolutely massive. I was like, oh my God. And I was only very, very slim then, very skinny. I lost a lot of weight. And so you could easily feel it. It was just huge. So that scan never got to any doctor. So the only person that knew this was me and the sonographer. So another year passed. I was trying to still track down this sonographer. I was telling doctors, I've been told this. Then they said that I needed to learn how to deal with my disability, the illness, because it's a lifelong thing now, and to stop making things up, basically. So I was just, everything, like I was going blind as well. So this was another thing. Every time I stood up, I would go blind. My headaches were just absolutely crushing. My blood, just everything. My body was deteriorating.
Yeah.
And there was a point, this was about 3 years on now. And there was a point where I was at the table with my mum. And we were just talking about normal stuff, like the neighbours and the this and the that. And I just looked at her and I was like, Mum, I'm dying, you know. And she went, I know you are, Cal. I can see it. He says, we need to get you better. You need to tell them there's something else wrong with you. I was like, I do, but they think I'm crazy. Anyway, there was a point where I was in Asda. This was the following day. And I was just getting something. I dropped something on the floor. So I went to pick it up on my crutches, went to pick it up. And I literally went blind and I couldn't see for, it seemed like an eternity. And I started screaming and I was like, someone help me, I can't see. And I was telling someone to like call my partner on my phone. I was telling them what to put on my phone. And anyway, my vision started to gradually come back. And I just said to him, Neil, like, I've got to go. I'm going to the hospital and I'm not leaving until they find out what's wrong with me. And this was like a good 3.5 years down the line now.
Really?
Yeah. And I was a regular visitor there. I went every single week for checkups and things like that. But I mean, when I had my treatment, the drip one, this is for an example of how it made me feel. Everyone else would be sitting down having the cup of tea and just having, you know, with a husband and stuff. I would be curled up on a chair, shaking from head to toe for 4 hours, and they would be like, "No, it's just how your body's dealing with it." And I'd be like this with my head until I ripped the drip out my arm one day and I went, "I can't take this anymore. This isn't helping me." And they said, "Well, if you take this drip off now, you'll have to go through the process all again." I thought, "I don't care." I said, "There's something, you're missing something. Something's not right." I said, I've been to and I had a brain check, actually. I had an eye check because I kept saying my eyes were going blind and whatever. Went to the eye hospital and all these doctors rushed in and they just said, I was like, "What's wrong?" And they said, "You've either got a brain tumour." I don't tell this part of the story very often. I forget about it. But he said, "You've either got a brain tumour or you've got something called papilledema." And that's only caused by generally a brain tumour. So I had to go and have a scan. So there's me now thinking I've got a brain tumour as well because I was going blind. So when the scan me, I didn't have a brain tumour, but they said your optic nerves are so swollen, we don't know why. So what they found out was the medication that they were giving me on top of the illness was breaking the optic nerves in my eyes because my brain was so swollen.
Oh, God.
So anyway, when I went into the hospital for the last time, that last time where I said, I'm not doing it, I'm not leaving, they were doing all these different blood tests and stuff, and they were kind of like, you know, you still got the thing we thought you got. And then all of a sudden, I was having scans, bone marrow biopsies. For anyone that's had that, you know what I'm talking about. The pain is awful. More lumbar punches. Like all these whole body scans where because my legs, I couldn't really move them, especially my feet. They'd have to tie my feet up with elastic bands to keep them from moving. So I was like in these scans for hours in absolute agony because they needed to keep me so still. So had all these scans, and then all of a sudden I was having full body x-rays and all these tests. And I just said to them, "Do you know what's wrong with me?" Because this had never happened before. I just kind of got seen and sent back. And they went, "Well, we think we know what's wrong with you, but don't Google it." I was like, okay. Not knowing what's wrong with me for nearly 4 years, but okay. They said it's something called POEMS syndrome. I was like, all right. They said, so POEMS is an acronym for all your symptoms you've got. So they went through it. So P was the peripheral neuropathy, like the numb feet and legs. The O was the organs being enlarged. The E was the endocrine system was absolutely shot. Like I had hypothyroidism, Addison's disease, and I had no periods for all that time. The M was myeloma, which was the really bad part. And the S was the skin changes because my skin was going a different colour. I was growing hair. I'm not a hairy person at all, but like I had really thick hair on my legs, on my arms. It was just crazy. So they said, so we think you've got that, but we've never seen the version that you've got before. So essentially you've got something that no one's ever had. I was like, right. Like I wasn't concerned at this point. I just thought, okay, so sort me out then. You know what's wrong with me. And they said, okay, so this, and I sat down with my consultant. He was an amazing guy, and he literally used to just tell me how it is. He just wanted me to be point blank. So he said, okay, so the way that we can go about this, he says, your bone marrow is absolutely perfect. So the blood's made in the bone marrow, okay? And when the blood comes out the bone marrow, he said, one of those cells is going wrong, but your actual bone marrow is fine. So if we can just reset you, and then it should sort itself out, but we don't know. I said, all right, so how do you do that? He said, well, we've got to give you the strongest chemotherapy we can give you without killing you, first of all. And then you will be your own bone marrow donor, which I thought was amazing. And I just thought, well, that first bit doesn't sound great, but I like the fact that I can be my own donor. Because when bone marrow transplant, you've got to have a donor. So I was like, okay, that bit's good, but what do you mean the chemotherapy? So it was explaining about it. And anyway, leading up to that, that didn't happen for another, because with POEM syndrome, it's only about a 5-year life expectancy, and I'd had it 4 years already. And there was literally months left, if that. Hold on. And so it was in the May the following year that I had the stem cells harvested from my own self, and then went into the hospital to have the treatment. So because I knew the dangers of the chemotherapy, and since working with my beautiful friend Jo Whitaker, who you'll see next week, realising the risks of actually what actually happened to me, and the survival rate of actually having that chemotherapy, living past coming out of the hospital and thriving now. It's like Jo said to me, she went, it's like billions to one, Kel, you don't understand. So there was a point I had the chemotherapy, and I was literally watching this drip through, and my mum was sitting next to me, and I was like, Mum, I literally feel like I'm committing suicide. And she went, but you don't have a choice, because they said with this chemotherapy you will start to, it's only for 20 minutes, and you'll start to wet yourself, your body will be shaking, you'll be slurring your words. I just want you to be prepared for what's going to happen. So all that did happen. And after the following days after that, I started to get really, really poorly. Had the bone marrow, the stem cells back the following day. That went in not okay, but it got there in the end. And there's one thing a doctor said to me, and I'll never forget it. And I just said, what about if my bone marrow doesn't work or it doesn't go in? And he said, well, then we'll be having a different conversation. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to know what that different conversation is. And luckily I never had it.
Yeah, thank God for that.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
So there was a point where that you get to about day 8, and you've got no blood, you've got nothing left. There's not that you are dying basically, and they have to give you constant blood transfusions to keep everything, running. And I was lying on my bed, and it was my birthday, I remember, and I was waiting for this blood to be delivered to me, and I was just like, for my birthday, I just want blood. I just want blood for my birthday.
Sound like Dracula.
I know, literally like Dracula. And my mum was sitting next to me, and I was like lying down, just closing my eyes and just thinking, if I go to sleep, I'm going to die. If I go to sleep, I'm going to die. But I didn't realise I was doing that for 5 hours. Time had just literally a gap in time. Yeah. This is where it all starts. So when you said about you dying and not realise it, and not the white light, I say that I probably did, but I can't say I definitely did, because I don't know. It was just such a massive gap in time. It was 5 hours. I remember the nurses coming for breakfast, and then all of a sudden they were cleaning the dinner plates away. But I didn't have that. I didn't know where that time had gone. So I managed to turn my head and look at my mum. I said, if I go to sleep, I'm going to die, Mum. She said, you're not, you're all right. Everything's going to be fine. So then I did go to sleep. And then when I woke up, again, this was hours later, I just had this feeling, and bearing in mind, there was no spiritual bone in my body, not whatsoever. I'd never meditated in my life. I used to think everyone was crazy that did that kind of thing. But I just knew that things were going to be okay, and I just didn't understand why. So even though I was at the pits of hell and the worst I could ever feel, I was so optimistic that I'm going to be out of this hospital in a few weeks' time. I mean, I meant to be in there for 8 weeks, and I was out of there in 2.5 weeks, and I walked out the door.
Wow.
So nobody could believe the extent of how. I mean, I was continuously being sick, and I was being sick for 2 months after that. I was still very poorly, but I just knew that I was okay. I've always been a very, very optimistic person, always been very positive and happy, and that obviously massively served me, because even though that I had all this terrible diagnosis and all this, everything that was going on, I thought, I know everything's going to be fine. So I walked out the door with this big bag of medication that apparently was going to keep me alive. Had adrenal failure, which adrenal failure is life-threatening. And if you don't take steroids, you will be dead within about 2 days. And thyroid medication, all these steroids, all these anti-cancer medication. And I literally walked home. I put it on the side in the kitchen. I thought, I'm not telling anyone I'm not going to take this. I'm just going to not take it. So it went in the bin. I shoved it right at the bottom of the bin. So I couldn't take it, because just in case I got tempted, I thought, no, I'm putting it in the bin and I'm just going to see what happens, because I know I'm going to be okay. And I went to the hospital, kept going to the hospital for my checkups, and my bloods were saying, you know, you're doing really well considering what you've been through, blah, blah, blah. Like, really amazed, actually. Here's another big bag of medication. I went, oh, I don't need it. I said, what? You must have run out by now. I went, I haven't took it for 6 months. And then I've got like the whole riot act about how way and blah. Well, I went, well, clearly not really, because I'm still here.
Yeah.
So during the time at the hospital, I experienced something when I woke up, and I had all these tinglings in my hands, and just this feeling of, not euphoric, because that's the wrong word to use, but just something different. And as the journey went on and I was learning to walk again and things were getting better, and I started to feel like being pulled out of my body, like this feeling of, which I know now is like really energy sensitive. Didn't know that at the time. So I was getting panicked again. I went to the hospital. I was saying I was feeling all this. I kept seeing, like, in my eyes, like these wavy lines. You know, when you look at the tarmac and you can see the heat and you can see the heat rising. I could see that all over the place. I was like, oh my God, I'm going blind. That's it now, because I'm going to go blind. So then panic sets in. I should have had my medication. Then it's like, no, Kelly, you're going to be okay. And then I went for Reiki. A friend of mine did Reiki, and she went, just have it, it might calm you down. So I did. And then those feelings that I was having ramped up a million times. And I literally shot off at the bed, and I was like, what the hell? Like, I can feel that thing again. And she was like, really? She went, stand away from me a minute with your back facing me. I was like, okay. So I did what she said. And she said, tell me when you feel that feeling again. I was like, right, okay. So as soon as she said it, I went, now. And she went, Cal, all I've done is took one step towards you. You feel energy so strong. I was like, okay. So that started to explain things. Then I went on this deep dive about energy and healing, and realised that I had this thing. I just could do this thing, like this healing thing. And I was like, what? And I'd put my hand on people and be like, oh, my headache's gone and this has gone. So started to deep dive in spirituality and went to the Buddhist Centre, and found that it gave me a reason for why all this happened in the first place. I thought, okay, so this is what needed to be ignited in me, maybe.
Yeah. Go on.
Yeah. So then, as the journey went on, because I was so energetically sensitive, I started to feel I couldn't actually go into a forest, because the energy from the trees used to make me feel sick. And I thought it was just me getting sick again or whatever. And I'd just be like, calm yourself down, Kat, and just sit by the trees and see what you can feel. So I sat with my back against a tree, and I was thinking, oh, I'm going to be sick. Oh, I'm going to be sick. I felt like my body was going vroom, vroom. And I thought, it isn't anything to be scared of. This is the energy from the forest. So when I was walking through, I just went, okay, I hear you. I feel you. Can you just not make, you don't need to make yourself so apparent. I know. So it started to calm down. So I did this then for a few more weeks. And I thought, you know what, I can feel the energy from the trees, but not just by being there, by just thinking about a particular tree, I'd feel it. So I took a piece of bark home from a tree. I'd leave it on my bedside table. I'd just do experiments with myself. I'd be like, right, okay, I'm going to look at it. I'd be like, oh, I can feel it really strong. Or I'd leave it in places in my house. I'd say to the kids, can you hide that? I just want to see if I can find it by energetic architecture or something.
Yeah.
So I was just like walking around the house. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, I could just feel it in my chest, and I'd find it every time. Crazy. Wow. So I realised I was massively tapped into nature, but didn't know what the hell I was meant to do with it. Like, okay, I can do that, but what am I meant to do with it? So I was doing a remote healing session. This is where the unlocking the secrets of the universe comes in. I was doing a remote healing session on a friend of mine. So I was tapping into it energetically. We were doing this meditation together, and all of a sudden I thought, I need to pick up a pen. It's like, that's random. So I've been learning to listen to these things that kept popping into my head. So I picked up this pen, and my hand started to move by itself and do all these wiggles and squiggles. And I was like, that's not me. That is not me. So what the hell is that? So a bit like a dog with a bone, I started to practice and practice and practice. And as I started to practice, it started to form words and like frequency patterns that I couldn't quite understand. I thought, right. But the first words that come out was, you can see on the picture actually, the squiggle, the lines, which call it a frequency trace, and then all those hearts. And that was the first time I ever wrote any words, which was the frequency of love.
Wow.
And then from that, I started to kind of deep dive into what it was, what was coming through me. Like, you hear all these horror stories about channeling and all this kind of stuff. But it wasn't coming from anything. It was coming from me. I wasn't channeling anything. I didn't ask for anything. It would just flow through me all the time. And I thought, this is crazy. So I then started doing these sessions on other people because I delved in. So I thought, okay, so I remember something coming up once and something, a past life name coming to me, and I didn't know what it meant. And she said, oh, this is what you were in the past life, blah, blah, blah. I thought, oh, okay, that's interesting. So I did some more discovering. I said to my friend one day, can I do something on you? I think I can do a thing. And she went, yeah, of course. And that's when I was really sick.
Wow.
Looks so different, don't I?
Don't you? God, that doesn't look anything like you at all, does it?
It doesn't. I mean, I was 32 there.
Wow.
And I look like 50. It was like, I'm 43 now, so it's a good 11 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, so where was it? So I went to a friend of mine. I just said, I think I can do this thing. Can I try it out on you? And she went, yeah. So we were asking about past lives with her. And it turned out that this was the first one that I did. And the past life was her and her son were husband and wife in this past life, because we can just be part of any soul tribe and relationship. And her son is in his 20s now, but he's always concerned where his mum is. He's just like, Mum, where are you? They still live together. And she'll just say, for God's sake, Joe, I'm just here. Anyway, he's always got this concern about where she is. So we asked about this and why he's so worried about her. It turns out they were husband and wife in the war, in a particular war, can't remember what war. And he got burned in a tank and she got shot in the head, but she got shot in the head before he died. And she went, oh my God, Cal. And I went, what? She went, Joe, come here, show Auntie Cal your chest. I mean, this guy's 6'2", and I've still called Auntie Cal. And he went like this. He pulled up his shirt, and literally there was a splatter mark like he'd been burnt as a birthmark.
Really?
Like, what? And she went, and not only that. And I went, she's got an absolute fear of fireworks, bangs, loud noises, guns. She hates it. It's always been, I mean, I've known her since she's been 3 years old. We've been best friends since then. And she went, I got something else to show you. And I went, what? So she pulled back her hair like this, and she went, have a look here. And right here in her head was a perfect circle birthmark, like a bullet wound. I couldn't believe. I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
It really resonated with her as well. So we did some kind of meditation to kind of put that to bed and stuff.
Yeah.
So then I started doing it with other people. And there's a picture in what Jeff has just showed with a load of books. And that's how many readings I've done and how many different past lives I've gone into and how much knowledge I've unlocked. And there's more now. It's probably about 10 full books. And I will write a book one day, because some of this knowledge nobody knows.
Yeah.
I mean, I always say if there's a fire, that's the first thing I'd save. Yeah, in that picture. It's the first thing I'd save.
Wow. Incredible.
Crazy. Yeah. So what I started to do then was go into the root cause of people's illnesses. go into the soul's purpose, why they're here. And what I found out is we all have a blueprint.
Yeah.
A blueprint is very different to a soul's purpose. A soul's purpose is what we're here to do in this lifetime. A blueprint is what we come here with completely. So I always describe it as the foundations of a house. Your blueprint is your foundation. Each brick is your soul's purpose.
Mm.
If we don't follow our blueprint, this is why we can't manifest properly, because we're not in line with our blueprint. And that goes in line with our core values, what's really important to us. Like with me, mine's massively freedom. I can't, and it's with everybody, but it's such a need and a must. I can't feel like I'm being controlled. I can't, I go against all rules. My other half said, there's something wrong with you. If I tell you to do something, you do the absolute opposite. And I'm like, I don't know why, but that also saved my life, because I wasn't listening to what the doctor was saying.
Yeah.
I was still so persistent about, you're missing something. I'm not doing what you're saying. I said, so it saved my life, and I think it's continued to save my life every single lifetime I've had. So when we go by our blueprint, it's our energetic signature, it's our energetic structure. So we've found that our soul's mission and our soul's blueprint looks very different in all our lifetimes. For example, I did a reading on someone, and they're a lot to do with connection. So they connect people. They're on social media, and they're a massive kind of advocate for people joining and finding their soul tribe and things like that. In this lifetime, when I went into their past lifetime, they were a connector of energies. And what they did was they connected plants in the ether to heal people and put it in their energy field. So if they wanted a medicine that would include the energy field, the energy of like a sunflower and a cucumber, for example, they would combine those together in the ether, combine them, and then put them into the energetic field of the people that they're healing.
Wow.
So again, it's still connection, but it shows
Yeah.
up in a different way. So as long as you're following your blueprint in whatever way connection means to you in that lifetime, it's when you're on the right path, and when you can start to manifest more easy, because you're on that train, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So all those, every single reading that I did was always come up with a frequency, and it would say, I would say, so I ask particular questions. I'll say, what is the most relevant past life to this person's life now? And we go deep on the soul level. It's not like, I'm not asking people to be like, oh, am I going to be with my husband, or am I going to get this job? It's deep soul level stuff. So we always ask about what's the most relevant lifetime, and what's their highest vibrational frequency, which is really important. So I know that I'm connected to the highest version of them. Again, I'm not channeling. I'm letting their energetic signature and their vibration to come through me, right? So I don't say that is channeling, because it isn't. It's just coming through, because I only ever connect to the core of the person or nature. That's all. I don't use guides or angels or anything like that. I don't use anything that's outside apart from nature, because we are nature anyway. So this vibrational frequency used to come out, but I used to think that was just for me. I used to think, so I know that I'm definitely connected to the right source. And it would come up, say, for example, I would channel and I would say, what is this frequency? It would say, it's a frequency of God's source consciousness. It's a frequency of the one infinite creator. And that means that that person is the fractal of, I'm connected to the fractal of source, basically. So I used to think that was for me. But as the journey, and I keep saying the journey went on, but as the journey went on, I realized that's not just for me, that's also for the person. So I started to do experiments, and I became a bit of an inventor, and I created products and pendants and things for the house that would hold this frequency and energetic signature. And it was just, they were literally healing people. I mean, there's one on the right hand side, and you can make up your mind whether it was a pendant or whatever he went through. But this guy, he had lung cancer, and he had a pendant off me that was tuned to his frequency and high vibration, and there was like earth elements in it and stuff, but in the one in the middle, and his cancer disappeared.
Wow.
So I did other trials. I mean, I've got hundreds and hundreds of pieces of feedback. This is just a few. Got people that couldn't even leave the house because they had heart palpitations, and their heart when they put the pendant on, the heart palpitation stopped, and they can just live a normal life. It's just, honestly, I still can't believe it. And I did a trial. It says medbed trials there, but it's just something I used to call it in my own mind. So I just called it that. And I did a trial with about 20 people. And I made these things to put in their bed. And it was like a grounding mat, but you don't plug it into the wall. It's just something that I made. And they put it in the bed. And I think this one was from a little boy. He had cerebral palsy. And she put it under his mattress. And it really helped him with his seizures and things like that. Again, like that's just a few.
One of many.
Yeah. But all this started to come from kind of like the frequencies I was channeling and all the information I was getting. So then I made a healing blanket. I made hundreds of pendants, and there's loads of people that have got them now. And started another business with a friend of mine, but unfortunately that didn't work out. So the pendant thing stopped, actually. Yeah, someone's commented that she's got hers. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thanks, Cal, for that. So the pendant thing stopped, and I created a EMF harmonizer for the phone, which, again, this is next week's conversation. But this is where the inventing started, and this is how it began. This is why I'm talking about this now. So it all started from when before I started to do all this not channeling, but connecting. I just started to know things. I just started to unlock knowledge that I never knew. I mean, I was literally I'm dyslexic. I've got ADHD massively. And I didn't even get one GCSE at school. I went to college and then went to college and then left. So I don't come from an academic background whatsoever. But I just started to know things about science and quantum physics and just stuff. I was just like, how do I know this stuff? So people knowing me how I was, they couldn't understand the version of me now. So I did lose a lot of friends, and people just couldn't connect to me. Even my family struggled to connect to me, and they still do now, to be perfectly honest. When I start to, they just know. The norm.
What you want about?
That's the norm. But they just know, like, I don't understand it, but it is amazing, but I don't get you. But so that's how it started and how it's kind of where it is now. So what I do now with people is I've got another business called the Crystal Water Experience with Dr. Joe Whitaker. So that's our conversation for next week.
Yeah, so tune in next week, folks.
Yeah,
this is like the dynamic duo next week.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I do on my side of it, I do readings for people to help unlock their kind of innate power, which we all have. We just need that bit of guidance to get to what we're meant to be doing if we're on track. We can find out if you've got a certain illness, how it kind of started, what we can do to what you can do to kind of help it. And it all generally comes down to water. And this is what the massive part of my business is. With the frequencies that I channeled for people's readings, people were starting to embed it into the water. So they'd put their glass of water. There's a couple of frequencies here, actually. If you look at this, can you see? Because the blur's on. Hold on. 1 second. I didn't send you a picture of this. Oh, I don't know how to do it. Okay. Can you see? Hold it up. I can't tell you. I don't know how to do it.
See it sort of. Oh yeah, there. If you keep, that's right. Go back a bit. That's it. Hang on. That's it.
It's so hard. Okay. You kind of got a bit of a glimpse of it there.
Yeah.
Okay. So the frequencies, they started to put their cups of water on them. And then because water holds memory, and this is a lot of the thing we're going to talk about next week, the frequency would embed into the water. So then that would absolutely start to help them heal if they were consistent with it. So what I do is I channel the person's, keep saying channeling because I know people understand that.
Yeah.
Their soul frequency, embed it into water, and that can aid their healing. I also run a group on Facebook called Challenge Me to be Pain Free. And the pain, healing, or one of the letters is, you'll have to have a look. I think I've spelt it so I don't get shut down, basically.
Yeah, quite.
Because I've got lots of red flags on there already. So
really?
So what I do there is I get a load of people on Zoom from all across the world. This is free because I'm doing this as an experiment for about 18 months. And I connect to the audience who's there by the vibration and frequency of their voice. So they all talk to me. They just say the name and where they're from. I'm like, right, okay. So then that goes into my energetic field, my biofield, and I say, right, I'm going to bring down a frequency now that's going to help all these people collectively with whatever the session's for, like for aches and pains or whatever. And this frequency comes out. I hold it up to the screen. The people hold the frequency, their cup of water up to the screen, and then the frequency grabs onto the water, and then they drink it or they put it on the aches and pains, and it's amazing how it works. Like that, they're like, okay, I'll say to people, all right, then, so we check the water before with a pendulum. So this is all independently done. These people don't know me, so it's not me that's doing it. They'll hold the pendulum, and it'll be going whatever way or not moving. And we do the thing, we put the frequency in, and then it'll be going vroom, like this. It'll be going crazy. Like I'll say, okay, take that water and put it on your aches and pains in your back or wherever, and let's have a chat. So while it's doing its thing, we'll be talking, and I'll say, okay, check your pain levels now, and they'll be like, oh my God, it's gone, or it's massively reduced or something. So I want to be able to help people to just use water to help with the aches and pains. So even if it just helps a little bit, so they don't have to take 8 paracetamols a day, they can just take 2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just something that's limits the type of the amount of medication that they take. So this is a study that's been going on for 6 months. And in the summer, I wasn't very active with it, so I'm getting active again now because I was just so, I'm so busy. But I'm going to make it a thing because it really does help people. I get other people that do it every single week, and then I get new people that come in as well, and they use it on their pets and things like that. And then once they've got that frequency, because then I send them all a picture of the frequency, and they can use that forever. That's it. It's not going to be destroyed. They can always use it, and they can put it in a spray bottle. They can spray themselves with the aches and pains, or to go deep with meditation, or for spiritual protection, that kind of thing. And that's it. You can have it for life. Just look after it.
It's like a one frequency for life. So once you've got it, that's it.
That's it. So what people can do then, because that's like a generic one for everyone, because that's connected to everybody. I do individuals, with private one-to-ones. People can message me, and we can find out their soul's energetic frequency, bring that down, and then they can just use that water. I've even had people with like fibromyalgia that have put drops of water in the bath, and they've got out feeling absolutely amazing after. So you only need a tiny drop. It's not like you need loads. And I say, this is something you can use forever. Once you've got it, you've got it.
Yeah.
So it's so.
And water is the most natural thing in the world, isn't it?
Absolutely, and it's a super.
With that before it gets added with all sorts of stuff. But anyway.
There you go. So this is just bringing the water back to some kind of coherence, because it's got a memory. It wants to work with us. It's the biggest supercomputer that ever existed, and they're even studying it now in actual science that water can hold. I don't know the terabytes and all that, but massive high terabytes of information in one drop.
Yeah.
So if we can make the high vibrational frequency to help people with pain, then bye farming.
Wow. Yeah.
Basically, getting shut down.
On Sunday morning, I was listening to a couple of people having a pretty sizable chat, and the gentleman concerned with being down the Gold Coast when they had the Commonwealth Games, and he watching the swimmers and watching the triathlon participants snorting they were snorting, and so he went to have a look and find out what they were snorting. And when he asked them, they were actually snorting saline water. And the saline was from Celtic salt.
Wow,
and so,
I've heard that actually.
So they're mixing it up, and then they were snorting up their cleaning out all their sinuses, and also to assist with their lungs. So obviously the triathlon guys are going to be, and the girls are going to be on the bicycle and swimming and running, and the swimmers in the water doing it as well. Really interesting component there to open up their airways.
There you go. And that's all I'm actually a swimming coach. That's my job. And I've heard of that before. People doing sailing. It's water. We are water and salt. Do you know what I mean? That's we just clean ourselves out with our own self, if you know what I mean, because that's what we are. So that's where it is at the moment. Like, I do the readings for people, and I'm bringing down the frequency so they can put it in the water. I'm doing this, it challenged me to be pain free on Facebook. And also the crystal water experience with Joe, which we'll be doing next week. So all in all, it's like an amazing journey. And it's not until, because it's just my life now, it's been going on for such a long time, it's not until I start to speak about it, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It really is.
And what an initiation you had.
I know. I think I'm just experiencing that now. So, and I always say, even though I experienced something so absolutely horrendous, and my family had to go through it and stuff, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I think my children as well, because my eldest is nearly 18 and the other one's nearly 16. And Leona, the youngest one, she's had her own business since she's been 11 years old. She's been making natural skincare since she's been 11 years old. They don't remember the bad times. They only remember everything being good. Like I even said to them when they were younger, I just said, isn't it really good now that Mummy can do more things, and we could go here? And they're just like, we've always done stuff. Because I did. We still went out. It was an absolute struggle, but we still did things.
Yeah.
You're still crazy. We've always done stuff. And it was just kind of like, my work is done. I've not affected my kids' mental health, because that was my absolute fear. You put the fear of God in me, that did. Because there's a lot of times where the kids would be coming from school and I wouldn't be there. So that sense of kind of a fear of me not losing me, especially with my youngest, was very, very apparent, and she had to have counselling at school and stuff. And it scared me to death. But to know that they're absolutely thriving in life and beautiful young women is like, it's just amazing.
Credit to you.
Absolutely. And then my husband, he obviously went through hell as well he said to me not long ago, he said there was a lot of times when I didn't think he'd be alive when I got home. And I just imagine feeling that, but he never told me, my parents as well. So for them to see me like this now,
it's amazing.
It's amazing. And then knowing what I know from Joe about how unlikely it was that I even survived in the first place and recovered. I mean, I still, when it comes to disability now, I can't feel my feet. So this is what I'm still trying to work on healing.
Right.
I can't feel my feet. I've got nerve damage. So I do walk like with a limp and do struggle still. But considering how I was is just miles apart. Miles apart.
Because I know you, like you said, that you've been missing moments in time, and you've still got no memory. So is that still, or is that changed at all as you've gone on, or are you still missing like chunks of, birthdays or whatever?
Yeah, so I can't remember my youngest child being a baby up to about 2 or 3. But I can remember snippets, but I can't remember a birth or anything at all. When I look at pictures, I think, okay, well, obviously that's me, but am I making my own memory up, or is it an existing one? I don't know, because that took a long time to come to terms with that, actually. It's really horrible. And also, I worked at a place for 9 years, actually, where I met my husband, and I can't remember it. I can remember the office where I was, but the overall place and the people, I just don't remember it. It's like it didn't happen. It's so strange.
Yeah. Mind you, I'm not surprised, with all what you've took or took back then, and
That's
all
it.
the medications and all the different things. You just don't know, in the greater scheme, what these things do you?
Exactly. And again, that's another good point. But I did remember it up until that point, though. That's the thing. It was when I woke up that day where I was, desperately ill. That's when the memory started I realised I couldn't remember. So who knows why or how or whatever. But I mean, even to the point where my eyes have changed colour.
Yeah.
Yeah, my eyes were dark brown, and now I've got hazel eyes. I mean, in the sunlight, they look bright green. Never had green eyes. Crazy.
No, it is incredible that the journey that you went through to what you're doing now, how you're helping people, like you're helping hundreds, well, probably thousands of people. So, and it makes you wonder why you had to go through that period so long to be able to come out and do what you're doing now.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just me that's able to do this, because I realised that it can't just be me. I must just have had this to be able to empower people to do it themselves. So I actually teach this. I actually teach people to tap into their own stillness. Like I teach, I called it Soul's Alchemy. So it's so important to be able to tap into the stillness of who we are. So there's a process that I do and what I teach to go through that. We quantum entangle with trees. So we bring, this is where the tree thing come in. This is why I mentioned it earlier. We take a piece of bark from a chosen tree and we're able to quantumly entangle with it to bring down frequencies to help us heal. And no one teaches all this stuff.
No. Look, this is a bit too natural.
Yeah, that's it. And it's just so simple when you are tapped into the stillness, and that is so key. And it takes practice. Don't get me wrong, but there's a we do it. There's a process that we do. We use water to be able to do it, and elements from nature to be able to do it. And then we bring down our own past life information, our own frequencies. So it's not like I don't want people just to come to me. I want to teach people how to do it.
Yeah, it's like being our own guru, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that is my message with everything is we don't need anyone to save us. We've got everything that we need that just needs unlocking.
Yeah.
So I feel my job is to bring this knowledge to everybody to be able to unlock this thing that we have within us. But if they don't want to do that, then I've created things to help people along the way.
Yeah.
I've got a question. Hey, you said you're a swimming coach. You ever done anything to the swimming pool water and transmuted it?
Oh yeah, I do that all the time.
God, not that needs doing everywhere.
Yeah,
I do that all the time.
So this is another. So when I was doing, I do like aquatherapy sessions as well at work, and I changed the frequency of the water to help the person who I'm doing the session on, and they just get out of the water like, oh, that was amazing, and I'll literally be holding them in the water, communicating to the water, communicating to the trees, because I work in a beautiful place. It's a private members club, and it's in a really amazing like nature area. And I bring through the energy of the trees. I'm like, right, can you work with me? They're like, yeah. I said, come and work with the water. Yep. So we work together to help the person that's there, and they'll be floating. I'll be doing like this. They'll be doing some movements in the water where they think it's the movements in the water, but it's actually the frequency change to help them. Yeah. So yeah, that's answer to your question, Jeffrey. I do.
Yeah.
I took a 6-pointed crystal, big one, and I went into my swimming pool, and I went and programmed the water. Yeah, so I thought I was doing pretty good. But that night when I went to sleep, all of a sudden the roof of the house disappeared, the walls disappeared, and down came this crystal pyramid. And the crystal pyramid did exactly what it had done with the six-sided pyramid, a six-sided crystal. So next morning I go and get my crystal pyramid, and I go in and I follow the what the dream showed. And then for 3 years, I didn't have to do any, put any chlorine, put any salt in that swimming pool.
They haven't?
Didn't have to, not for 3 years.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. there you go. That just proves it, doesn't it? That just proves it. Yeah, the water's amazing, and we will touch on more of this next week.
Yeah. Looking forward to that one.
Yeah,
So
because
going back to your feet, because so you can't, when you're walking, you can't feel your feet.
I can feel that I'm touching ground. Like I know that I'm connected to something. It's not like I feel like I'm floating. And if I bang for example, if I bang my toe, I'll know I've banged my toe, and the pain will come about 30 seconds later.
Right.
It's very delayed.
Yeah, but obviously you've got used to walking that sort of way.
That's it. I can't, the heel strike, like your heel hits the floor and then your toes. I can't move my ankles. My feet move like this. It's what's called foot drop. It's when the nerves don't fire. But because during that whole thing, they decided that they would experiment on one of my nerves in my feet and take it out, knowing full well that it wasn't really going to serve a purpose.
Yeah.
Convinced me. I didn't want them to do it. Convinced me to do it. I was like, okay. Then it didn't come back with a result. So my right leg is worse than my left now because I'm missing a nerve in my ankle. So
you have to go to dancing lessons now. Heel toe.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I mean, So, I mean, I can't run because I don't have that thing. There's a lot of things I can't do, so I couldn't play like racket sports or anything. I worked for a racket club, and so I couldn't play all the sports that they do there because I just can't move around quick enough. I'm very flat-footed. I'm like this, and balance is loads better, like 100% better to what it was, but I still can't balance great. If I'm standing still, you'll see me kind of like shifting around because I can't feel where my feet are. But you just get used to it. But I still don't get used to the feeling because it's horrible. I do have to take one thing. I just have to take some nerve medication, which I really want to get off because I feel like my feet feel like there's like a million spiders in them with hot feet.
Yeah.
It's just horrible. I keep getting electric shocks all over my body and stuff. But that's nerve damage. That's what happens. But I'm determined to fix it. And they are getting better slowly. But they did say, because I'm 6 foot tall, you see.
Are you?
Because I'm so tall, yeah. The spine goes to the peripheral nerves, and because I'm so tall, it's very, very slow. But when I've had like these nerve studies and stuff, my feet just don't move when they put these electric pads on them at all. So. But
send you if you like, I'll send you a bottle of the drops to try.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
I know we'll talk about it afterwards. And going back to the hospital, how have they been with where you are now and what you've been through and you didn't take? Has anybody done a follow-up or a case study on you or anything, any way in any way, shape or form?
So I'm actually a study in America at the Mayo Clinic because of how I've kind of recovered. I'm meant to go every 3 months, but I don't generally. I go once every 6 months, if that. Just to see the progress, because with the myeloma part of the illness, it's not curable. You can't cure it. And this is what like my Joe was talking to me about. He said, but it's not just that. Myeloma itself is that can kill you, but you had everything else. Remember the acronym that I went through?
Yeah.
So because they took enough to do two bone marrow transplants, but I only needed one. And because I don't take any medication and I'm walking the way I'm walking, even though, it's still slow and I still have to use a crutch sometimes, it's still miraculous. They still can't quite believe it, but they know what I'm like. They'll say, taking any medication, Kelly? I'll be like, nope. And I'm just taking HRT because that bloody chemo sent me straight into menopause.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm more or less off that now. I barely take it, but I think I must have gone through it already. Yeah. So by the time I was 36, probably 40, I was more or less through menopause, I think. So, yeah. And that's a kicker, isn't it, Andrina? No one warned you about that.
No.
No? That's a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
going back to your question, I do have blood tests when I go to hospital. I've got to go this in November actually, just to check to see where the levels are. But I just know it will never come back. Just like I knew in the hospital when I put my medication in the bin, I just know. And people ask me, how do you know? I'm just like, I don't know. It's just a knowing. I just know.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm going to die of. It'll be whatever else, but it won't be that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, been an amazing journey so far, and this is just the beginning of the story and just the meat.
And it just
can't come in and see that one next week, guys, because that is story.
So you're in for a treat next week. So I don't think I want to ask you anything else. Is there anything else, Jeff, that you'd like to ask?
Have you been able to do a past life aspect on you? And obviously, there's something deep and meaningful there that's come out in this particular life.
For Andrina, sorry, or for me?
No, for you, Kelly.
Oh, for me. Okay. Yeah. So what come out for me was this is a crazy story.
Yeah, go on. We like crazy.
Another one. So when I first started this, and this is when I realised that what I did went into past lives, I was told that I was William Wallace in a past life, and William Wallace wasn't, the freedom guy. So it just makes sense. So, but he's not depicted in history how he really was. So he was like a really evil guy that basically drove Scotland to its slavery. And no one shoot me who's Scottish, by the way. I'm just saying what come through. But then ever since then, I've been paying the price basically for that since 10, whenever it was. So in every single lifetime, I've always had something wrong with my legs or my feet. I've had past life regressions where I've been held up by, it must have been in the war, like underground. I was held by these big, it was massive. It was like big wheels, and the wheels had me hanging up, and I could literally remove my consciousness and put it somewhere else, but I was having my legs burned. Another one where I've seen my legs being smashed in and all this kind of stuff, but it's to pay the price for what I did back then. So the karmic type thing.
Yeah.
I want to say another one, a really interesting past life that I did. There's been loads, but this one in particular. So this particular lady, she didn't want people to see the true her. She was very gifted and very psychic, but she's very high up in business, and she didn't want people to know. And what happened in her past life, I mean, she's mad. So she was a shoemaker, right? But in her early childhood, her father had some land. This was probably in the 1500s or something. Her father had some land, and the king at the time wanted the land, and he was like, nope, you're not having it, you're not having it, you're not having it. And anyway, the Viscount of the royal family killed the father, right? So obviously she grew up without a father, and I don't know what age she was at this time. She was a man in this past lifetime. And she made shoes. She was an amazing shoemaker, and she made them for the royal family and all these famous people, or as famous as you are back then, and royalty. And she got, and this person approached her and just says, I really want these shoes. This is for this ball at this time. And she recognised him, and it was the Viscount that killed her dad. So what she did was she made these shoes and put cyanide at the end of the shoe. So over the period of time he was wearing them, it would slowly poison him and he would die. So he did die. And she told her friend. She told her friend, and then her friend told people. And anyway, everyone found out, and she got hung for that. So in this lifetime, she didn't want people to know her true power. She didn't trust people, and she couldn't build friendships. So it was all linked. He said, this is the most relevant past life. It's really because she didn't trust people, because her closest person got her killed. So it goes very deep, and it's something very relevant. It's like, there's been loads like that, loads and loads like that, but that one always really stands out to me. So it's just so off the cuff, like putting
Yeah.
poison in you. Where'd that come from?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's yeah, they are they are amazing. The information that comes out is mind blowing.
Wow. Well, that's been absolutely amazing. I mean, obviously, I know, you know, because we've talked in the past and what have you. So I know part of your journey, but hearing it all like that, it's just incredible. So, you know, my God, what a journey, girl.
What a journey. Long may it continue without the trauma.
Exactly, yeah, and hopefully, you know, the feet are healed, and obviously, as you, I suppose, as you clear more past lives, then it'll come back. So
That's it. I do feel
it's
that.
forever working on yourself, isn't it, in different ways. It's like, you know,
100%. Yeah,
it's just keep going, keep going, keep going.
keep going. That's it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've been an absolute gem. I've really enjoyed talking
Good.
with you
Thank
again.
you. Thank you so much. Like, I so appreciate you having me on the show. It's amazing.
Oh no, it's been lovely. It's our pleasure, I tell you. So, and yeah, so I don't think there's anything else. So everybody, next week we got the lovely Dr. Joe that you would have seen, Dr. Joe Whitaker on the show before, and they're going to be talking about water next week and so much more. So I'm really looking forward to next week's show. Yeah, and you're going to be sharing about the discs for the phones that people can get, which are so affordable. Just work their magic. So there's going to be a lot happening next week. So thank you once again, Kelly. It's been an absolute delight, and I look forward to talking with you afterwards. But I'll see you next week, same time, same place, everybody.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks everyone for listening. Bye.
And thank you, Jeffrey.
Bye.
Are we playing our little thing?
Oh yes.
Okay.
That what?